it's time to wrap up Buffoon of the Year with the worst of the worst. In case anyone forgot, this is how it works. There will be 11 categories of buffoon throughout this event, based upon the categories in my best-selling, award-winning book, Schnooks, Crooks, Liars, and Scoundrels, A Field Guide to Identifying Political Buffoons, which, by the way, is available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores. Cheap plug, I know, but hey, that's how we roll. Our beautiful and lovely guests will nominate buffoons for each category. Just about anyone is eligible for nomination, with the exception of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Because let's face it, if they were to be nominated, they'd dominate just about every category, and we can't have that now, can we? It takes a majority of our guests voting for a particular buffoon to win that category. Buffoons can win in multiple categories, and each winner goes on to compete throughout the end of the year for your vote as Buffoon of the Year. Now, we're at the main event. We're talking about the radioactive buffoon. The buffoon that not only takes themselves down, but everybody else around them because of some major scandal or event going on. They become so radioactive they infect people associated with them. Or as Tracey, I believe, called this section, Sophie's Choice. Because there are so many nominees that fit into this category that it's going to be really hard to choose from. This is going to be the hardest vote yet for you guys. Mm-hmm. So I have four nominees that I've listed that I've spoken to you guys about in advance. Of course, George Santos. We've talked about Rashida Tlaib during the show as well, how radioactive she has become. And then two other nominees from the area, Bob Menendez, who is once again under indictment, and Andrew Cuomo for daring to make a comeback now in New York State. There's talk about him running for mayor against Eric Adams, if you believe that bullshit.
This fucking guy again.
Let's get to Menendez for a second real quick, because I do have something to share on the screen about him, if you just give me 1 second here as I learn how to do the show again. Let's see. Here it is here. And
let's go while we're young.
Bingo. Here we go. Gold bars featured in Senator Menendez's bribery case are linked to a 2013 robbery.
I love gold.
And this is being reported by NBC, by the way. We're talking about NBC here going after Bob Menendez. Bob Menendez's home was raided, and among the things found as part of this bribery indictment were 4 gold bars connected to a robbery in Jersey from 2013.
I didn't do nothing.
Apparently, this involves a businessman from the area who reported the armed robbery back in 2013, and somehow Bob Menendez, who seems to be more about representing Egypt than he does New Jersey, had these gold bars in his possession. And as you see from the article, they had their own serial number. The bribery indictment against Menendez and this guy, Thabes, that happened this year, they took photos of the gold bars. And so obviously this Menendez thing goes far beyond what we saw in a previous indictment from Bob Menendez. But here they are right there, clear as day, folks. A couple of gold bars, just, as you do in your normal everyday life. A couple of gold bars just lying around in your house. Tracey can relate to this problem, I'm sure. Right? You have a bunch of gold bars just laying around.
Just laying around. Listen, if the House voted to get rid of George Santos without due process, who's going to be the brave Republican senator to get rid of Bob Goldbar Menendez?
I got an answer for you. It's not going to be a Republican. It's going to be John Fetterman, who says he went on The View. One of the few coherent moments of John Fetterman in 2023. He went on The View.
I think the more important picture is that we have a colleague in the Senate that actually did much more sinister and serious kinds of things. Senator Menendez, he needs to go. And if you are going to expel Santos, how can you allow to somebody like Menendez to remain in the Senate? And, Santos's kind of lies were almost, funny. And Whereas, I think, Menendez, I think, is really a senator for Egypt, not New Jersey. So I really think he needs to go. And especially, it's kind of strange that if Santos is not allowed to remain in the House, someone like that. Yeah.
Are you, though, uncomfortable with the fact that there hasn't been an adjudication, that while he's been charged, there hasn't been a conviction? With Menendez.
I am. And it's like he has the right for his day in court and all that, but he doesn't have the right to have those kind of votes and things that's not a right.
I was shocked to hear that. It's like a broken clock twice a day. And this brings me back around, by the way, to James's earlier point about Santos shouldn't have been voted out because of him not being convicted yet. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to harken back to something that Alicia said earlier when we were talking about elected officials and we have to hold them to a higher standard. I think that George Santos, and we'll tie in Menendez and Santos together here. I think that when it comes to George Santos, he was given due process pursuant to the Constitution, because the Constitution has its own parallel provision for Congress to police its own membership. He was given an opportunity to be heard there, declined to do it because he had this other case pending. Fine, that's tactical, and that was his choice. And then Congress chose to act accordingly. They don't have to wait for the judicial branch to go through criminal charges. And there's nothing in the Constitution that says you need to be convicted in order to be expelled from Congress. All it says is that you need 2/3 of Congress to do so. Mm-hmm. So while I understand that everybody's saying, due process for George Santos and all this, fuck that.
Language, please.
There was enough evidence in the public record already of him lying and him acting in a way that was not commensurate with a member of Congress that Congress could have given him the boot regardless of whether there were criminal charges going or not. I think it's a great precedent. I think it's a precedent that other members of Congress did not want to create because, oh shit, I could be next for doing something that's not a crime. And I like having members of Congress scared for their job at all times.
Amen.
Yeah, Gene, from what I've been told, due process didn't matter in this because they weren't going to convict him. This was like a body of employers getting rid of a bad employee. I still personally wouldn't have done it. I guess I'm really hard right with this. I see both sides of the issue, but I can tell you here locally, 78% of his constituents did want to get rid of him. They wanted an out. It was causing a major, huge distraction. Me, I'm going to be a selfish Republican. We don't have a big majority in the House. And now when we get back, now George, as terrible and horrible as he is, he was a reliable conservative vote.
I got an answer for that too. What was going to get passed that required George Santos's vote that would have gotten past the Senate anyway?
I'm just afraid to give over the House to Democrats because, all right, if we come back from break in 2024 and we have a 1 vote majority, that person better stay damn healthy. That's
so then Kevin McCarthy is just as bad as George Santos for leaving at the end of this year then, right?
I'm very upset at Kevin McCarthy for that. I don't think that this was, in a way, I feel like this was like his screw you to everyone. And I don't think that was right. I also don't think he should have been replaced as Speaker of the House. Not that he was my favorite, but
he was doing
the
well.
business of the people did not get done. This was a huge, huge distraction. And there were people that, listen, we have Democrats, Republicans, and blanks. Blanks rule the day. Blanks win elections, and they're not beholden to either party. They're disgusted with the Republicans because of that display. I talk to them. I knock on doors. I knock on thousands of doors during election season. And so I can't even tell you how many of these blanks were considering voting Democrat because they were in local elections because they were upset with the Republicans for the House debacle.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm going to put this question out to everybody. With George Santos's expulsion, we got Menendez on the side. We know he's there. With George Santos's expulsion, and I'm going to ask you this particularly, Tracey, because you're an expert in local elections here on Long Island, it now gives Republicans 2 elections to convince the electorate that they should still have their trust in the area and therefore have that seat. Didn't Republicans then do a service for the local party to have these two bites at the apple to try to knock out Democrats and, in a show of good faith, expel the cancer that they've wanted out since January of this year when that poll that you referenced occurred, that 78% of them wanted them out. Isn't that a good thing for Republicans in the long term?
Locally, it's great. Federally, it's not so great. Like I said, if we don't win this election, which is going on in February, I think we will. I actually do think we're going to pull it out. I know that 26 candidates right now have screened to go against Tom Suozzi, but Tom Suozzi is very well liked and very, very formidable.
And well funded.
My favorite, and I think she would be a timely, out-of-the-box anti-George Santos choice to regain trust in the Republican Party, would be Mazi Palip, who is an Israeli paratrooper. I think that she would be a great outside-the-box pick, and she's not Jewish, she's Jewish. And I think she's of the moment. She's smart. She's loved. She has been elected as a Republican in a bright blue area. I think that she's the one that could be Tom Suozzi for sure. But I mean, the whole thing, top down, sunlight is the best disinfectant. This is never going to happen again. I guarantee you that with any candidate, they're being looked at every which way.
Oh, yeah. Tracey's going to be giving colonoscopies to candidates in their own, for sure.
Oh, that's right. I want DNA. I want hair samples. I want it all.
Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. All right. We're up to the final category. Alicia, you got to introduce yourself to the audience a little more. I know you don't have anything really to plug. You talked about your background in politics. We met through the New York State Young Republicans, which, by the way, was also a misnomer back in the day when we were around.
They suck.
That's sort of our background. We've been friends ever since with that. I know that you've participated in races and worked on races up in your area, and now you have this. You're teaching. You're doing politics. You're raising 3 beautiful boys. Brag on yourself a little bit here, please, because if you're not, I'm going to.
Okay, so I have three kids. I have twin boys that are 15 and a half. I homeschooled them for 3 years during COVID and after COVID. They wanted to play sports, so they went back to public school because in New York you can't play sports if you're homeschooled. Even though you have every other requirement you have to fulfill for education for them, and including reports to the school, by the way. But the New York State Education Department will not allow them to play sports through the school if they're not enrolled. So I also have a 5-year-old, and he is homeschooled, especially with the indoctrination and the things going on in school. There's no way in hell they're getting a piece
and
of
by
him.
the way, the most precocious 5-year-old you'll ever see.
That kid he's 5 going on 40. I mean,
smart as a whip.
Gives me a run for my money every day. And some of the things he says, and I think, how on earth did you come up with that? And some things you want to punish him for, and you can't, because, he was able to think of that. So, but yeah, so I homeschool him. I work full time in healthcare compliance. I teach healthcare compliance at one of our state institutions. And I work on political campaigns, both locally, as well as, I have a history of some congressional races and things like that. But I'm trying to, get the pulse up here in the North Country to change. We used to be a very, very red county. We are no longer red. We aren't even purple. We are deep, deep, deep blue. And it's affecting the area big time.
I'd love to come up there and campaign, but it's cold. It's so cold. I can't deal with it. Listen, I give my friends in the South a lot of crap because, it's 60 degrees out. I need a winter coat. But going from even like downstate New York up to where I don't know how you do it. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So James, we got these 4 names: Santos, Menendez, Rashida Tlaib, we've talked about. Andrew Cuomo as well. He's trying to make a political comeback. What's your reaction from the outside looking in about Andrew Cuomo trying to rehabilitate his political career?
I think that whoever is going to be opposing him needs to just get a copy of the executive order that he signed on March 25th when he sentenced all those elderly people, our grandmothers, our grandfathers, our uncles, our brothers, our cousins, our friends, to die. And that's exactly what he did with it. And
Eric Adams versus Andrew Cuomo potentially we're talking about 2025 now. We're not even going to 2024. But could you imagine that? Talk about Sophie's choice. How about that? Which poison do you want to take there?
Exactly. I don't know which one. I don't know which way you're going. And I'm in New York politics, clearly not exactly my bailiwick, except for the major stories. And the one with Cuomo and this executive order sentencing people to die was something that I followed for months. And
yeah.
And unfortunately, we have over 16,000 people and families like my own who are going into their fourth Christmas, as the consequence of Andrew Cuomo's actions. Listen, on February 17, 2020, Dr. Anthony Fauci, who I also hold responsible, he was quoted in USA Today as saying that COVID was most deadly to the elderly. So when you have a governor and his staff writing an executive order, signing a death warrant for elderly people, a month after that, we knew it was most deadly. Remember, we had the USNS Comfort. We had auxiliary hospitals where Trump sent the Army Corps of Engineers to help to build that didn't see one patient. So when you intentionally put 9,000 COVID positive patients into nursing homes, to me, that's murder. That's not manslaughter. That to me is premeditated murder. And my dad was murdered. And
the stockpiling of all those ventilators that were never used.
Yeah, the fact that the fact that Andrew Cuomo is beating Eric Adams in polling in New York City is so troubling, and it shows you the short life that people have that they don't remember. Right. I mean, you're talking over 16,000 people got murdered. My father was a young guy. He went to
and not only that, Tracey, he has the audacity to go on Anthony Scaramucci's radio show to call you and the other families vile for blaming him for what happened to your families because of his executive order.
Trump, during the Republican National Convention, says, I'll tell you who's to blame. It's the Democratic governors who mismanaged nursing homes. He points at the Democratic governors. Following that, the Department of Justice announces a federal investigation into those Democratic states and those Democratic governors who mismanaged nursing homes. So now you've created this myth that this is all about Democratic governors. It's no longer about China and COVID. It's about Democratic governors who mismanaged just in nursing homes.
But you did mismanage. Governor Cuomo, you had the only state in the union that had that Department of Health advisory, that had that executive order concerning nursing homes. That's what you did. And you're complaining that Trump was going to investigate you? You were just worried about getting caught, especially because you were designing posters for sale and you were writing a book and going to be getting a whole lot of money for that book. You had a lot personally on the line here. That's the big problem.
And they launch a federal investigation on that point. And, well, that's now a Republican dogma, conservative dogma. Democrats did it. They did it in nursing homes.
It's a vast right-wing conspiracy, y'all.
These conspiracy theories, and then the extreme angers. You're right. The distrust, the alienation, dropping a conspiracy theory. And then the attacks are just vicious. You didn't care about people in nursing homes. How dare you suggest such a vile thing?
I'm going to explode. This is personal to me because I know people. I've met with family members who lost members of their family in nursing homes before this. I was considering starting litigation on their behalf. I was pitching to them ideas for litigation. I was pitching to them litigation ideas on their behalf that they certainly took under advisement and ultimately decided not to do because people like Cuomo and other levels of government gave themselves immunity for their actions during the pandemic. And now he has the gall to play victim? That he's the one that's been victimized? No, Governor. You know what? I don't even want to call you Governor. No, Mr. Cuomo. You victimized families who lost loved ones with your singular policies that nursing homes couldn't stop the readmission of people with COVID to infect others. You, sir, are not a victim. You are a perpetrator. He hasn't learned anything. He is unrepentant, and he wants to memory hole the entire thing with your families. He wants to memory hole the sexual harassment charges against him. He wants to memory hole that he was writing a multi-million-dollar book about his leadership during COVID while he was fudging numbers about who died in nursing homes. He wants to memory hole that he made that god-awful poster while he was supposed to be running the state. Absolutely. And to have the audacity to think that you can come back from all that, do a few rehabilitative interviews with people like Anthony Scaramucci and others out there, and think that he can just step back into public life. The man shouldn't be dog catcher. The man shouldn't.
I'm sorry, Gene.
I'm actually angry about Andrew Cuomo.
I will tell you this. Keep your eye on this date, February 4th, 2024. Us nursing home families, especially Voices for Seniors, have been working for years for this, but we finally did get a House investigation into Cuomo's COVID response. He will be testifying, but at first on February 4th, the transcript will come out. He is going to testify behind closed doors because he's so slippery. They want to see how he answers the questions, and then they'll know better to bring him and haul him in public. So at the very least, if we can't get some semblance of justice, we're going to ruin him politically for the rest of his life.
Well, absolutely. But let's remember though, we're talking about holding Republicans accountable, even in Congress and stuff for their other members and calling people out. Well, we also have our Republicans in the state Senate and Assembly who didn't push hard enough and allowed him the opportunity to resign, whether instead of ruining him where he was, and now we have him back again. So we have to remember that we owe some accountability to these Republicans who should have done their job and didn't as well, because now he's like an STD. He's the gift that keeps on giving, and he keeps coming back.
Now go away. Just go.
Yeah, I just don't know what they could have done because the Democrats had such a supermajority. But it was very odd to me that the progressive far left were working with the Republicans. And for me, as a lifelong Republican, to be on at a press conference with the far left DSA wing and Republicans together, it was very, very odd. Indeed, it's been a very strange journey.
There was an opportunity there to send a clear message to people like Cuomo, and they chose not to do it.
Correct.
Finally, I just want to very briefly about Rashida Tlaib. We've talked about her in the whole length of the show. Really, here she is again. This is again. Rashida Tlaib has hurt her own cause. I believe. I think that she's going to have somebody primarying against her. For her seat. I'm not sure about that, but I'm hearing rumblings that there may be a primary there. Rashida Tlaib, we've talked about her hypocrisy, for her pro-Hamas rhetoric, her getting censured and all that. Is she in the caliber, I should say, of the radioactive buffoon that we're talking about right now, or can we take her out of contention for this particular award?
See, for me, while she is a bomb waiting to happen, you kind of expect that bomb to be thrown. And so you expect that out of her. I think, with people like, Cuomo coming around and trying to run for mayor, you just don't know what the hell you're going to get. Mm-hmm. And so you don't know what's going to happen. And I think he's more radioactive with regard to that. Santos, he's radioactive, but he's almost gone, right?
Well, I mean, he is on Cameo.
My favorite TS song is definitely going to be Trouble. I knew you were trouble when you walked in. That's me. Bye.
And you can probably buy a little message if you want to send somebody. In fact, I'm wondering, Tracey, what can I get you that for Christmas maybe? If I just say I have a friend named Tracey that would like to get a cameo from you and then just send it to you, you think that would be a good Christmas gift?
Yeah, George would do anything for money, so I'm sure George would take great delight in
I'm not going to
in
say
doing
it's
a
you.
video.
I'm going to misspell your name.
Well, you
And
know
I'm
what's so funny, Gene? I ran into him after everything had imploded. I ran into him at an event in the city, and I was like, "Uh-oh," and he was like kind of mad at me, but I was like, "George, come on!" Like the stuff is actually most of it's hilarious. Katara Ravachi, I'm Jewish, like a volleyball player with a knee replacement. I like, George, how can we not make fun of you and like laugh at it? And I said, for the record, George, you were very beautiful as Katara Ravachi. And he started kind of laughing and smiling about it. Like, he's enjoying the celebrity. This is everything that he has ever wanted in his entire life. So I think he would have no problem making that cameo.
I mean, he could join the cast of SNL. I'm sure they would accept him.
Oh, he'll be on Dancing with the Stars after he does Time. Mark my words.
They probably would. All right, it's voting time because I want to get you guys out of here at a decent hour. So it's voting time now. I'm going Santos. The story had legs for the entire year. Cuomo has reemerged recently as odious and disgusting as he is. He's going to be a story going forward in 2024 and 2025. Menendez is a story yet to happen. He's going to get convicted. And Tlaib, again, is one of those shorter term stories. And as Alicia's been saying, to me, and I agree with this statement, it's become expected. You've won me over during the course of this show, Alicia, as to whether I should be outraged with her or not. And I think my outrage is definitely coming down talking to you about this. So it's got to be George Santos for the most radioactive buffoon of the year, because it did span the entire year. All right, Sophie's choice. Tracey, who you got?
I agree with you. As much as I loathe Andrew Cuomo, that's just a new chapter, and that's going to continue forward. But we can't. George is just the gift that keeps on giving. Like, and when you thought you were done with one lie, you got karaoke, George. Anybody listen to George sing karaoke?
No, I did not. No.
It's life changing. He sings "Let It Go" from Frozen. You have to Google it.
Let it go, can't hold it back anymore. Let it go, turn away and slam the door. I don't care.
It's pretty amazing. George is the gift that keeps on giving. Andrew, this is a story to be continued. 2024 is going to be a very pivotal year between the nursing home families, the sexual harassment victims, and Andrew Cuomo. Look forward for that to next year. It's got to be George. He was headline after headline every single day. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not sick of the story yet. The movie is coming out. HBO is producing it. Better be nice to me. I'm going to be a character in it, so they better cast it very nicely.
Do you have a say in the casting?
I don't think so. I'm very nervous.
Come on, you got to.
I'm chapter 10 in the book. So.
Oh man, that's gonna be so cool. We have to do a screening of that somewhere sometime.
We have to.
Got it. All right, James, what you got?
Well, you guys have kind of sold me. I hate Cuomo. I think he's a villain. And I think that he's doubly despicable because what he's going to do, this arrogant son of a bitch, is going to go out and he's going to try and parlay his political lineage, his political heritage, thinking that that's going to make everything okay. And that's one of the problems in this country is we're getting to a point where we have so many dynastic candidates. We go back to the Roosevelts, the Kennedys, and on up through. But I think it is Santos. Just like I said, he's just, the whole thing is just weird. It's just squirrely. It's just shady. You don't know which way the guy's going or where it's going to be. And I think I'm gonna go with George Santos too.
All right, Alicia, is it unanimous or are you gonna stick to your guns on somebody?
I think Cuomo will be a good story in 24 and in 25, and I'm sure he will capture many, many categories, nominations in 24. So I think that we probably, and again, Tlaib, I expect this. She's not a bomb anymore. She's just a little puff of air at this point, for me anyway. So I think we got to go with Santos.
All right, there it is. The Radioactive Buffoon of the Year is George Santos. Now, as a reminder, everybody, all of these winners in the categories, and we're talking about lunatic, hypocrite, and radioactive, they go on to vie for Buffoon of the Year based upon a vote that's going to be taken, whether it's in the comments of this video, comments on social media, comments on our community page, on our channel. It's going to be allowed everywhere. It's a free-for-all. You can vote multiple times on each one of those, and let me know who you think is going to be Buffoon of the Year for 2023. And guys, thank you so much for doing this. This has been a blast to hang out with all of you. I really and truly appreciate all of you. And I love how we're all doing this because we want to be here. Politics doesn't dominate our everyday life, so we have perspective on politics and everyday life.
A conservative perspective, Gene.
There you go. And I was trying to be fucking sentimental here, but thanks, James. But listen, I truly appreciate all of you. I love you dearly. Thank you so much for doing this. Obviously, everybody watching, I'm going to put a bunch of links in the description so you can catch up with all these wonderful people, including John Lubecki, who was on earlier. And listen, thank you so much, guys. You guys are cool. This has been cool. It's all cool. Thank you so much.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.